This is another example where we are discussing a situation with, in this instance, it was a widower who had just gone through a rather prolonged illness with his wife. They've been married for many years. His wife sadly passed away, but his experience at Providence St. Joseph's was profound. He found the level of care from the doctors and the nursing staff to be extraordinary in every regard. And he felt, and his entire family felt, such an incredibly strong connection to Providence through this experience. And as he and I discussed his future and what that would look like, he expressed to me some things that he was looking for. He had a house that had appreciated significantly over the years. This was a house that he had used some inherited funds to purchase. It had been maintained as his separate property, so that even though his wife had passed away, he didn't get a normal step up in basis, which would have happened with community property assets. But this house was now too big. He didn't like the idea of living there alone. He wanted to downsize. But again, we're now facing this scenario where we've got a significant capital gains tax liability that would occur for that sale. Again, the house was purchased for about $200,000. It was worth about $3 million at the time. And so we started to talk about some of these different options. He liked the idea of having income. He was used to living off dividends and CD rates. We are in a time similar to now where CD rates are very low. And so for clients that have a desire to live off of income, that's becoming more and more difficult. Bond rates are very low. Income rates from CDs and liquid assets are almost non-existent. And so having something where you can maximize income and get an income rate of 5 or 6 or 7% annually, again, is really an incredible scenario. And that was really what this gentleman was facing as well. And so what we ended up doing in this situation, as we look at the next slide with this widower, is he ended up giving half the value of the home. And again, you're seeing in these instances with the UPS employee and this widower, in both instances, they didn't give the entire asset. They gave a portion of the asset because they wanted to utilize 100% of the proceeds of the portion they kept for either their own purposes or for something else that was not going to necessarily be part of that charitable gift. But by making the charitable gift was able to significantly diminish, if not completely eliminate, the tax liability that would have occurred on the sale of the portion that they kept for themselves. And so you'll see that tool. I think that's really important as advisors to be aware, because I think a lot of donors think when it comes to charitable planning that it's sort of an all or nothing scenario. And I think that keeps a lot of people from moving forward with gifts to charities of significant amounts. And I think it's important as advisors to realize this can be scaled perfectly to achieve what each client's best outcome is. And so in this scenario, this gentleman gifted half the value of his home to a charitable remainder trust. And again, then there was a sale that occurred where the charitable remainder trust sold the half that it was holding, and he sold the half that he was holding. In a very similar way that played out with that UPS driver, the full amount of the gift to the charity was then able to be realized without capital gains taxes. Capital gains taxes were incurred on the portion that the widower sold on his own. But again, the deduction that was created, which was a significant charitable deduction, was able to effectively eliminate his capital gains tax liabilities on the sale of his own portion. And then that created a significant amount of income that was able to go to him. And in this instance, it was, again, close to $75,000 of income that he was then able to use to pay his living expenses moving forward. He was then able to take the remaining funds that he had scale down into a smaller home that he felt was more appropriate, that provided some additional levels of potential future care if that was necessary on a one-floor basis, so they didn't go up and down stairs. A lot of things that from a lifestyle standpoint made it much more sense. And again, he had this significantly increased income source that he didn't have before. And in this scenario, again, we sort of look at those lifestyle goals. We have enhanced and increased income. We have significant charitable deductions, which helps eliminate other significant capital gains tax liabilities. And again, if the situation just stopped there on those financial benefits and income lifestyle enhancements, you'd say, great, that was a great scenario. But in this scenario, again, we were able to bring in this charitable component, work with Providence St. Joseph's to create a very unique and personal charitable benefit that began to get played out. In this instance, the widower and his family just felt a really strong personal connection again to the nurses that cared for his late wife. And what they were able to do was, working with Providence, they created a scholarship that effectively is endowed, so it will go on in future years, and in fact has, that would provide a source of funds for the nurses at Providence St. Joseph's to get further education and skills to enhance their ability to love and care for the patients that come through the doors of Providence St. Joseph's. The widower, during the remaining years of his life, was able to be part of that process, reviewing applications and then meeting recipients that had received the scholarships, having luncheons afterwards with prior recipients of the scholarships to hear stories about how that education changed their ability moving forward to care for new patients and enhance their life, enhance their income, and created tremendous connections and meaning between this client and the Providence nursing staff. And then, as Julie had mentioned, the idea where you've got many times an instance where family connections are deepened. It's exactly what happened here. The children of this gentleman were part of this planning experience, and they were part of the scholarship review panel and part of the luncheons that were meeting these recipients of the scholarships. And this client has since passed away, but his children have continued this legacy and are now also able to partake in this each year, where they're meeting prospects for this scholarship, and they're meeting with prior recipients of the scholarship. And again, it has created amazing meaning, an incredible connection, an incredible benefit to our community. So we'll highlight in the next slide the again, just a quick review of some of the technical aspects of this charitable planning tool. Again, this was a charitable remainder unit trust. The technical aspects of this type of unit trust is called a flip net income charitable remainder unit trust. And really what that meant is that you're transferring an illiquid asset like a house into a remainder trust. And the trust has different terms that then will spring into effect upon the sale and liquidation of that asset. And again, we were able to avoid significant capital gains and receive a great charitable deduction, and then create a significant amount of wealth for the charity as well, that received the balance of those funds upon the passing of the donor.